Hey, Richard Bryce here, Tennis Hacker. In this video, I want to talk to you about analysing and understanding the real reason that you're losing tennis matches, so that then you can make the necessary adjustments and focus on the right things in practice in order to be able to improve and win more matches. Hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be awesome if you could give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's much appreciated if you could do that as well. So the reason I'm making this video for you today is I've just had a conversation with a friend. He's a 4.5 player. He was playing in a tournament at the weekend and he got knocked out of the tournament. It was a close match. He lost 10-7 in a super tiebreak third set. And the conversation, he was basically breaking down, explaining what he thought went wrong and analysing what he needs to work on moving forwards to be able to improve. And as he was explaining things to me, I was kind of scratching my head a little bit because I've seen him play a lot of matches and there's normally something that tends to go wrong that causes him to lose. And that wasn't what he was explaining. He was talking about needing to improve his footwork, especially on wide balls on his backhand. And yeah, he could probably do with improving that. And if you've watched my videos before, you know I'm a massive fan of working on your footwork. But for him, there's something else that normally goes wrong, and that's his serve. He normally hits too many double faults, and I mean way too many double faults, and it puts him under so much pressure. So when I dug deeper and I asked the question, how many double faults did you hit in the match? He misheard me and he said, yeah, I hit 2 double faults in the super tiebreak. I'm like, oh, you gave him 20% of his points in double faults in the super tiebreak. You lost 10-7. That's the difference between winning and losing the tiebreak. And the reason I got so stressed, and I'm getting so stressed now when I explain this, is because he's had the same problem ever since I've known him, but I've never seen him get out on court and actually work on his second serve. Because his mechanics are generally good. He just needs to get out there and practice and just kind of tweak a couple of things. In a couple of months, maybe 6 months tops, he could have a real nice second serve and make improvements on his first serve. And by doing that, the rest of his game, he should be able to blow most 4.5s off the court. But for some reason, he hasn't done that yet. And I find this is something that happens with a lot of players. When you talk to them and they're explaining why they lost matches and what they need to work on, most players fundamentally misunderstand why they're losing matches. Generally in tennis, the player that loses is the player that makes the most unforced errors. Yes, when we get to like the top level of the game, it's more about hitting winners and, you know, making amazing plays. But for most players, the sort of players that are going to be watching these YouTube videos, it's about who makes the most unforced errors. Now, the type of unforced error is going to look a little bit different at the 3-0, the 3-5, the 4-0 and the 4-5 level, but it's relative. It's still who makes the most unforced errors. So you need to analyze your last match. Why did you lose it? Where were you making most of your errors? Because there's normally 1 or 2 sources. So for a lot of players, especially at the 4-0 and the 4-5 level, they give away way too many points when they get a short ball, a theoretically easy ball. They go for too much and they miss the shot, and they just give their opponents 3 points by doing it. And if that's the case, then you need to recognize that so then you can do something about it. The first thing that you can do in that scenario is the shot selection. You need to dial it back, not go for so much, and not give your opponent unforced errors. So it's firstly a tactical decision, and then in addition to that, on the practice court, you want to spend time working on trying to be able to put short balls away. And that's kind of the 2-part approach to solving that problem. Potentially you've got a weak backhand, and every time you play an opponent, they pick on your backhand and you make too many unforced errors. That's not necessarily such a tactical decision. I mean, if you're trying to rip winners down the line, it's a tactical decision. But if you're just trying to get it back cross court and you're making errors, then it's a technique thing. It's a fundamental problem with your technique. You need to spend time on the practice court practicing and trying to fix whatever's going wrong with your backhand. But whatever the situation for you is, this is how you need to analyze things. What was the source of the unforced errors that I was making? What can I work on to fix the underlying problem? And then you have to work on fixing that underlying problem until it's no longer a source of unforced errors. And most matches come down to a few points here and there. So if you just reduce your unforced errors by a small percentage, that tends to make a massive difference in how many matches you win. Now, if you would like help in terms of breaking down your strokes and figuring out what to work on and how to correct them and improve things, I've created a class that's going to kind of break down the approach that I use with my own game. I'll place a link to the class down in the description so that you can start going through that if you would like it. If you have any questions about what I've covered here today, I would love you to leave your comments down below, but hopefully what I have described makes sense to you. Unforced errors are normally the reason that players lose. You've got to figure out where most of your unforced errors are coming from, and then you've got to fix that problem. That's the single most important thing that you can do to improve your results as quickly as possible.